First thing to say, apart from welcome to you all, wonderful. Bhante Yushi is joining us. Welcome, Bhante. Welcome, Bhante. Thank you. John, as in John English. John, I had a brainstorm. One of the public questions you put up were the parallel texts. And I said, not that I know of I mean, there are plenty for Hindu and secular Sanskrit, but none that I knew of for specifically Buddhist texts. Silly brainstorm. Why did I forget the clay Sanskrit library? I'm just, so you can all see it. I'm just going to share screen. Where we are in 3 share. Okay, can you all see my iPad screen now? Is it there? Look at, it's clay, because somebody called John Clay, I think, clay as in soil. If you just Googled clay Sanskrit library, it's a fantastic library of Sanskrit books. And it's got the Sanskrit on one side of the page, Romanized Sanskrit on one side of the page, and an English translation on the other side. It's very, very competently done. Let me just pull one at random off a shelf here. What's this one? Just the Emperor's Sources. So I'll just show you an example there. You see the Romanized Sanskrit on the one side and the English on the other. It's mostly Hindu and secular stuff, but there are quite a few Buddhist ones, like Saundarananda, the Buddha Charita, for example. Anyway, you'll find those easily in the clay Sanskrit library. But as for the heavily annotated texts of the type that I'm doing with the Bodhicharyavatara, with these deep level annotations that I'm doing, I haven't yet found any of those for Buddhist Sanskrit works, only for, and you'll find plenty for Hindu works like the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana. You find those with deep level annotations and full word by word explanation. But for the Buddhist texts, and apart from the little things that I'm doing, the best I found is in the clay Sanskrit library. So, am I going to disclose in advance? Yeah, I suppose I better, to be fair. It may be that during the course of this lesson, I might be asking random people to explain a bit of the grammar, just to see if they've been awake. But I try to be as benign as I can. And so I don't know, I see this kind of laugh on Mariano's face. Is it because he believes me or because he doesn't believe me? You can never quite tell these wonderful Italians. They keep you on your toes. Right. So here we go now for the Bodhicharyavatara. Oh, sorry, before we go on to that, there was one question left over from last time, from 4 weeks ago, actually, but I didn't deal with 2 weeks ago because the person who asked the question wasn't with us. That was from Vilip, smeared, Vilipta. And one of you, was Mariano, asked whether there could be anything to do with vilify. Also, could it be anything to do with lipid? The first one, no. But lipid, yes, from the group lipos is fat, and you can smear fat over something. So a lipid and lip to smear, yes. From vilify, afraid not, because that's just from the Latin vilis, meaning of cheap, of no value. So the original meaning of to vilify is just to trash somebody, to make out that they're useless. That's the original meaning of vilify. So when in it's taken on a stronger meaning in modern English, vile, you vile creature. In fact, in Latin, it simply means worthless, of no value. So there we are. We got 1 out of 2 for those, Mariano. So yeah, lipid and lip. Yeah, so the one that you scored was from classical Greek rather than Latin. That was good. Right, on to our number 12. Here we go. Sprishta. Sprishta. Ushnodakena sukumara pratapsyase. Kritva narakam karma kimevam swasthamasyase. I'll read again. Sprishta ushnudakena sukumara pratapsyase. Kritva narakam karma kimevam swastham asyase. Now this again, as before, if I forget to switch on my iPad or to share that screen, please shout. I need to be reminded. Switch now to iPad screen. There we are. Sprishta. So sprish. The root meaning of that word is to touch, but it's often used for touch with water or to splash. And it's one of those roots that can put a nasal into it. In the present tense, springshati, springshati. Now, my Pali students will well know the rule whereby the sound sh in Sanskrit can become a k in Greek, Latin, and even some of the Germanic languages. So sprish spergere in Latin, more commonly found in the form aspergere, asperges me domine hissopo et mundabur. The Roman Catholics among the elderly Roman Catholics will remember that. You shall sprinkle me, O Lord, with hyssop, and I shall be cleaned. Aspergere, and in English, by the way, if you cast aspersions on somebody, it's from that same root. You splash somebody with filth. You cast aspersions on them. You spray them with muck. That's the original meaning of the aspersion, splashing them. And also through the Germanic language root into English, note the sh becoming a k. Sprinkle. So our word sprinkle actually comes from that lovely old root sprish. So here he's saying, even if you are so much as splashed with boiling water, you're scalded, you're burnt. So from sprish, we get the past participle sprishta. And just in case the grammatically eagle-eyed among you are wondering why the sh has become a sh, it's because whenever you get a root ending in a sh, the palatal sh sound, followed by the ta of the past participle, it always becomes shta. That's why, for example, from the root drish, to see, you get, for example, drishta. It becomes retroflex. Incidentally, little rabbit hole here. We can make a verb, that means to see. We can make a verbal noun, drishta, seen. Drishti means a seeing, and therefore a view. And in Pali, it becomes ditti, which we all know as samadhitti, right view. Right, back to where we were. Sprishta ushnudikenapi. So actually, those of you who've hidden your faces because I'm going to ask random questions, no, I won't. What I'll do, I'll ask for volunteers by putting your hand up to answer a question. So you can come back on now. I like to see you. Good. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Cora. And no, thank you. We know these are the rules of Sandhi. I'm going a little bit slowly and boringly now because these are some terribly basic rules. You've got to know them well. We know that were you at a word ending in an a, followed by another word beginning in an u, they merge to o. But if you look at the text here, oops, where's it gone? Oh, sorry, here we are. Mr. Technology at it again. Sprishta ushnudikenapi. Find a word ending in an a followed by an u. Why has it not become o? Right, okay. In the absence of volunteers, I will tell you. Because originally, it's not sprishta, it's sprishta. Left to its, back to, left to its own devices, the word would have been sprishta, because it's the masculine nominative singular talking to you. When you get a word ending in an ah, followed by another word beginning in any letter apart from a short ah, you drop off, all that happens in the Sandhi is that you drop off the visarga, you drop off the subdotted H. So that's why it becomes sprishta ushnudikenapi. We'll do this more and more as we go along. Those of you who are with me for the Thomas Eginus classes, of course, it's that we go through slowly and in detail there as well. Now, if Sanskrit doesn't like a hiatus between two vowels, the a, the u that becomes o, but why then does it allow the hiatus a plus u remaining a u? The difference is primary hiatus and secondary hiatus. If the word genuinely left to its own devices on its own ends in an a, and the next one comes with an u, starts with an u, merge to o. If left to its own devices, the word in question ends in a subdotted H, the visarga. When I say left to its own devices, I mean the word on its own in isolation. You drop the a, but then that gives you the hiatus in a and u. That's called a secondary hiatus that occurs after the visarga has been dropped, and that is allowed. That is why you get sprishta ushnudikenapi. And for the Pali students among you, of course, we don't have the visarga in Pali, but the rules of hiatus, whether the vowels have to merge or they can be kept separate, Pali is much more fluid like that. Sanskrit is quite strict and rigid with its rules, a bit like Latin and early Italian, Latin had the exact rules. Early Italian was a bit more fluid. I mean, how many words for he in Italian? I mean, just so many. Colui, codesto, colui, so many. Some of them have dropped out of use. But even Verdi, you see, you'll have about three or four different words, all meaning he. Anyway, sorry for that rabbit hole. So, Ushnodikenapi sukumara pratapsyase. So, sprishta means touched or splashed. Means if you are. Ushna means hot. And udaka is water. Incidentally, this ud, meaning water, it's our same root as wet and water. It's that same root, that same root. And in Greek, the hudor and hydration, dehydrate. It's that same word. So water and the hudor and dehydrate, udaka, uda, and udara. These are sort of uda and udaka are all etymologically the same root. So ushna udaka, hot water or boiling water. Now here, ushnodakenapi, here ushna udaka, the ushna does indeed in its stem form end in an a and it's followed by an u, and therefore it has become an o. And if you see in the text here, that is why sprishta ushna remains a u, because it's originally with a visarga, but ushna udaka, no visarga, just a merges with the u to become an o. So ushnodaka. Adjectives and noun. An adjective will alter its ending to agree with its noun. But it doesn't have to. You can merge an adjective with a noun to make a compound. So here, ushna udaka, ushna udakena, with hot water, sprishta, ushna udakena, splashed with hot water. It could equally have been, and equally correctly have been, ushnena udake. Sorry, forgot to. There we are. Ushna udaka, ushnena udakena, and of course that u merges to o. So it could equally correctly have been, keeping the adjective and the noun separate, udakena, instrumental, ushnenodakena, with hot water. You can do that, giving the adjective its full form to agree with the udakena. Or you can merge them together to make a compound, ushnodakena, both equally correct. And in verse, where you've got a strict number of syllables per line, the poet will often decide on one or the other just to get the right number of syllables. So sprishta ushnodakenapi, and the ena is the instrumental, with hot water or by hot water. So sprishta ushnodakena means touched or sprinkled, splashed with hot water. Followed by api. Api, as an enclitic, that means joined onto the end of a word. It mostly means even. So ushnodakena api, which is ushnodakena api, means even with hot water. So Shantideva is telling us all the horrible things that will happen to us if we're not good in this life. And he's saying, look, you Sukumara, you little diddums, oh, you little darlings. He's saying in a very sarcastic way here. And he's intending to be really, oh, look, you little darling. If you just get splashed with a bit of boiling water, you're yelping. Oh, you poor little diddums. But now think what's going to happen to you if you don't get on with it and purify your life now. So that's the force of the api. Even a bit of boiling water gets splashed with it, sprishta. That's going to make you squeal. Just wait till you really squeal later on, is what he's saying. So sprishta ushneda konapi sukumara, little diddums. Pratapsyase, you are burnt, you feel the heat. So the root tap, we know, meaning heat or to burn. As a verb, it is both transitive and intransitive, rather like the English verb to burn. You know, you can burn something as a transitive verb, or something is burning intransitive. It's exactly the same in Sanskrit there. By the way, our word tepid, meaning just now, of course, just means slightly warm. It's tepid, but it comes from that same root. And don't know if we have any Russian or Slavonic speakers here, but the word tyoply, the tiep or tyop, means hot in Russian, for example. So that same tep root has stayed. And I think I may have mentioned this last time, as a verbal noun, you have tapas, which means literally heat or burning, but the idea is the physical austerities that you put yourself through to purify yourself. That's tapas. So the pra is pratapyase. With the prefix pra often means forth, towards. Pragachati, he goes forth, and so on. And it's cognate with the word pro, meaning out or forth. Proactive, acting in advance, acting forwardly. But very often it just has an intensive meaning. So pratap means it means to torture. So pratap means to torment, to burn intensively or to torment, pratap. Take the passive, make the passive by adding the ya infix, pratapyase. You are tormented. You are severe, you feel severely burnt. Pratapyase. So this word sukumara by the way, there's no, I've looked for it, I haven't found it, an analysis of this word, kumara. The prefix ku often means bad, and mara from mri, meaning, well, mri, to die, mara is mara, but it's nothing to do with that at all. It's just coincidental that it looks like that. In fact, it has rather the opposite meaning. So the kumara can mean, generally it means a young man, but with a subtext of a young man of noble family, and often used to mean a prince. So the Rajaputra, the king's son, will be the kumara. And the su, prefix meaning good, and so on. Sukumara, but here sarcastically, oh, you delicate little prince. You think you're rather grand, but you're just a pathetic little wimp, really. That's what Bodhidhamma, not Bodhidhamma, he's saying, Shantideva is it saying here. Bodhidhamma's not like that at all. The Sukumara Pratapsyase. So even if you're so much as splashed by a bit of hot water, you feel scalded, you little diddums. Kritva. What is Kritva, anyone? Wave a hand or, yes, okay, Mariano. Unmute. You're still muted, Mariano. You're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, now we can.
Did you say Kritva?
Kritva.
Kritva. Yes. Okay, it could be a gerundive or it could be the state of, coming from the verb krit, create. Or
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. What's the actual root?
It is kri.
Correct, yeah. That's good, got it. So, kri, to do or to make. Thank you, Mariano. Kri, to do or make. And incidentally, the Latin creare and our English create. It's from that same root. And the yeah, Mariano used the word gerundive. I think the Sanskrit Pali scholars tend to use absolutive, but it's the same thing. So kritva just means having done. Kritva narakam karma. So having done hellish acts, having performed hellish acts. That means acts worthy of hell. Who is going to explain naraka and what noun it comes from? Okay. Going, gone. Okay.
Is it nara? In which case it would be an adjective, human.
No, I'm afraid not. Good try. And in fact, if you were analyzing it from scratch, I would have said the same. It's a very good try because we have nara, meaning a man. In fact, from the root nri and the root nripa, for example, protector of men is another word for king. But in fact, the word naraka, with a short a, just means hell. But it just coincidentally looks as if it might be from nara, meaning a man. So naraka means hell, and you very often can make an adjective out of a noun by lengthening the first vowel. So naraka, hell, naraka, hellish, worthy of hell. Another very common occurrence of this is the word manushya, which means a human being, as a noun, and the corresponding adjective is manushya, meaning human. And we see a couple of verses down, we'll get to it quite soon, the manushya now. The word now is good nature in the nominative now. Now means a boat. So the manushya now, the human boat, the boat of human life. You are in a human body, use it, because that will ferry you across. By the way, now a boat, nautical, the Argonauts, that same now, our navy, our word navy, is from that same word, the very ancient root nau, meaning about. So, kritva narakam karma. So, having done narakam karma, an act worthy of hell or deeds worthy of hell. Again, from kri, many words form their verbal nouns by the adding of a ma. As in Greek. To put a thema, which in modern English we have as a theme, means a placing, the theme, that which is placed down. And in Greek, in classical Greek, problema. In modern Greek, problema, in modern English, problem. And that is why you find, actually, and it's neuter in Greek, and that's where you find even in Spanish, and I'm almost certain in Italian as well, that a lot of words ending in a ma, derived from Greek, are masculine because in Greek they were neuter. They aren't feminine at all. So, el problema, for example, il problema, do you say in Italian? Yeah. That's why that explains where it ends in an a, but it's masculine because it was neuter in Greek. So, kri plus ma becomes karma. So, karma simply means our favorite word, karma. It simply means doing or acting. So, kritva cha narakam karma, having done deeds worthy of hell, kimevam swastamasyase. This is a rhetorical question. Kim, the word ka, sometimes ko, mean who. The neuter form of that is kim, meaning what. So, what are you doing? Is kinkaroshi, what are you doing? At the beginning of a sentence, it will very often simply be an interrogative particle. In other words, it will make a statement, put kim on the front of it, and will turn the statement into a question. But sometimes it's a bit of a fluid word because it can also mean how, or I can surprise, what are you doing? Kim, how can you be doing this? What are you doing? How could you be doing this? Kim, the same. You can tell from context. So, kim evam swastam asyase. So, let's look at this asyase. Let me just go back to the will anyone volunteer which word that has come to be quite widely used in modern English is from the same root as the verb asyase? Okay.
Is it assay?
I'm sorry, who was speaking there?
It was me. Is it assay? Assaying?
No, it's actually from sitting, the root. And in one way of forming a verbal noun is an asana, as in the asanas of yoga, literally the sittings. So easy to remember because you sit on your asana, don't you? Okay. Right. So asyase, this is a verb that can conjugate in various different ways, but one of them is the fourth conjugation, or fourth class, which adds a ya, and it's atmanepada, so a middle verb. So it's not asyase, but asyase, means So that would mean you are sitting, or you sit. So kim asyase, how do you sit? Meaning, how can you possibly sit? Sorry, I forgot to get back into iPad. So there we were. The root asana asyase. Kim evam swastamasyase. Evam absolutely not to be confused with eva. I caused myself a lot of trouble in my early years of Sanskrit 50 years ago, failing to distinguish them properly. Eva means like an emphatic particle, or only. Evam means simply thus. The evam, thus. And it's the same in Pali and Sanskrit. And we all know evam maya shrutam.
Please share your screen.
Thank you. Sorry. It was writing evam eva and evam maya shrutam.
You got Eva Meva in the Heart Sutra, haven't you? I mean, one after the other.
We have, and we do indeed. Thank you for mentioning that. I will explain it in a moment. I'll even ask you to. Now, evam maya shrutam, thus by me heard, thus have I heard. Many of the sutras begin evam maya shrutam, and of course in Pali, almost the same. Maya, incidentally, is the instrumental of aham. It means by me. Thus, evam maya, by me, shrutam, heard. Thus it has been heard by me, thus have I heard. And in Pali, of course, it's just sutam, not shrutam. Evam maya sutam. So it is thus. So kim evam swastam asya, how can you sit like that? So you who have done acts that are worthy of hell, how can you sit? Kim evam asyase, how can you sit like that? Yes, Mariano, what do you think evam eva means? Sorry, you have to do unmute.
Okay, sorry. I can't remember exactly where it occurs, but it is thus precisely so.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it, precisely so. So evam means thus, like that. Now, if you really want to emphasize it, evam eva is not just thus, but in exactly that way. And in Pali, after a simile is given, may give some simile about how something happens in the natural world, and the sutta will go on to say, evam eva ko, the ko adding a further emphasis, in exactly the same way, O monks, so and so, evam eva ko. So remember these evam and eva, they often do occur together, as Mariano pointed out, but they are two entirely different words. So kim evam asyase, how can you sit evam in that way, like that? Swastam. So swa means self. Like the word tantra, a loom, it often means control or rule. So swatantra means in modern Hindi, swatantra, you know, independent as in politically independent, swatantra, self-rule. If you are swasta, as in this verse, let me just call it up again. Sorry, I was mucking up my screen. There we are. Swastha. We all know the root sta. Sta meaning to stand. Latin stare, English stand, Russian stat, it's remained in most of the Indo-European languages, sta, that very basic word. If you are swastha, you're literally self-standing. Now, you often see this word used in the negated form, aswastha. Sorry, is my... I keep forgetting. Do feel free to shout and remind me. In fact, I hereby solemnly place upon you the formal obligation to shout and remind me if I forget. Aswastha, literally non-self-standing. So if you're feeling out of sorts, you're not yourself, you're not grounded, your mind's all over the place, you're unwell, just recovering from an illness, you might be aswastha, non-self-standing, not yourself, not composed, lacking composure. The swastha means self-standing. It can mean, fully composed, nicely grounded, at ease, feeling that all is well with the world, that is swastha. So at ease. So he's saying, kimevam swastham asyase. How can you sit, kim asyase, evam, in this way, swastham, at ease, nicely composed, feeling that all's well with the world, when these awful things are going to happen to you. Swastham, that I have highlighted there, you'll see that it, in the grammatical analysis, I put an I for undeclinable. In fact, it's the accusative used as an adverb. Very often in Sanskrit, if you want to make an adverb, you just take an adjective, put into the neuter form, and it becomes an adverb, which is why that's what's happened here. That's why it's in the neuter form, swastham, as an adverb. So kimevam swasthamasyase. How can you sit around at ease like this, evam, like this, meaning in the way that you're doing? Now, actually, I said I wasn't going to ask for a volunteer, but I know that an ordained member of the Sangha will wish to be very kind to everyone and show that it's actually quite easy to read a Sanskrit verse. So Bhante Yushi, may I invite you to read this verse to us in Sanskrit, please?
Yes,
Thank
I will
you.
try. Sprushta Ushnodakena Skumara Pratapyase Krutva Narakan Karma Kim Evan Swastan Ashase.
Very good, thank you. Bhante Yushi, by the way, is your native language Japanese? What
Yes,
is
it is.
Okay, right.
Yes, it is.
I could, of course, tell by your name, but there was one syllable that you pronounced there as if it were Japanese. Because in Japanese phonetics, you wouldn't say sukumara, you say skumara. You'd run the S and the K together in Japanese, which is what you did. You said skumara.
All right.
I said, oh, that's Japanese coming out there. So just,
Yeah.
that was very interesting. Yes. So just remember.
You have very good ear.
Thank you. So pronounce it as two distinct syllables. Sukumara, a short sukumara.
I see. Sukumara.
That's a lot better.
Sukumara.
That's it. You've got it.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bhante. Now,
Thank you too.
okay, thank you. Who else will volunteer to read this verse for us? Christine, jolly good. Thank you. Please unmute and come on.
I'm going to be brave. I don't know how close it'll be, but I'll have a shot at it.
Well, that's the entire point of being here. Have a shot at it, you see. Not only that, but then you'll persuade everyone else that it's not so, you don't have to get it perfect. That's not the idea. The idea is that you're a bit better at the end than you were at the beginning. So if you show everyone else what fun it is.
Let's have a go then. Sprusta Ushna Darknapi Sukumara Pratapyase Krutva Tanarakam Kama Kimevam Shvastam Asyase.
Not only was that good, it got better as it went along. But it did get better. Seriously, can you just read the first pada again? A pada is a half line. So read just the first half line again, starting sprishta.
Sprusta Ushna Darknapi.
Okay, it's ushnodakenapi.
Ushnodakenapi.
Very good, that's excellent. And you can analyze, by analyze here means break it down to ushna udakena api.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, Ushnodakanenapi.
Ushnodakenapi.
Ushnodakanenapi.
Remembering that O is the merger of the, where I'm highlighting here, Ushna Udakena. Good, thank you very much.
Right, lovely.
So, any other volunteers to read it? Yes, Angela, please. Welcome, Angela.
Okay, I'll give it a shot, as they say. Sprishta Ushnodakenapi Sukumara Pratapyase Krutva Chanarakam Karma Kim Evam Swashtam Asyase.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
But can you just read this tricky word again? So
Which
I'm
one?
highlighting Devna.
Ushnodakenapi. Have I put the accent in the wrong place?
It's not so much the accent, it's the length of vowel.
Right.
The A in Sanskrit,
yes,
is always long. And the O is always long and the A is always long.
Ushnodakenapi.
Exactly so. Ushnodakenapi. Now that's why, for example, you'll see the kritva, where I've highlighted there, the long a and the short a. Because you have a long and a short a and a, so you have to distinguish them, and that's why we put the line over the top, known as a macron. You know, nothing to do with the French president. I mean, macron meaning the Greek for big or large. And so narakam, so we distinguish the a and the by putting the macron, and the same with the e, and the same with the u, e, u, u. However, o and a are always long. And so you never need to put the diacritical mark. So for example, here in evam, it's not evam, but evam, always long.
Evam.
And at the end, asya, not asya se, but asya se, asya se. For the Pali students, note that in Pali, the basic rule is that they're always long, but they can be made to be short by position, it's called, if it's followed by a doubled consonant. For example, so I'm just going to... I'll do just a tiny bit of Pali here. I know you're here for the Sanskrit, but it's such a common word that we use among the Buddhists. Is metta. It's from the word mitra, meaning the friend. And one way of making an abstract noun out of it is to vridhi, strengthen the first syllable and change a final a to ya. Okay, we'll come to that in more detail. Just take it as it is for the moment. So mitra, friend, maitriya becomes actually friendliness. That's the original meaning of metta, friendliness. It's often translated as loving kindness. That is the etymological root of the word, a feeling of friendliness towards people. So in Pali, by standard phonetic mutation, it becomes metta. Now, I've said that A and O are always long in Sanskrit, but the A and the O can become short in Pali if followed by a doubled consonant. And that is why in Pali, this word would not, if this word were a Sanskrit word, if metta were a Sanskrit word, it would have a long E, metta, even though followed by a doubled consonant, metta. But in Pali, it's metta. So you could pronounce with a short E, metta.
Can I ask something quickly?
Please, Mariano.
Where does Maitreya come from then? Where is the E?
Okay, Maitreya. Now you see the Maitreya, this is by a further development of that word. The Maitra, the Maitreya, the Aya ending means a person who has that characteristic. So Maitreya is the person who has the characteristic of being full of Maitriya, or in Pali, metta. So that's the origin of the Maitreya Buddha, the Buddha of metta. Thank you. It would be that's what it would be in Pali, the Maitreya, Metteya Buddha, but Maitreya Buddha in Sanskrit.
Is that also compassion, by the way? Same as compassion? Was it a different word? Just
no, compassion is karuna.
oh, okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Same in Pali and Sanskrit, karuna. And there's you'll hear some English people saying karuna. Just tell them to stop it. Karuna, karuna. Also, now that I got the opportunity, now that I'm thinking of those of you who may know, so many English people say Amaravati. It's Amaravati. Amaravati. The abode of the immortals, it means. Well, Baron, let me just learn this now. So Amara, from our root mri, meaning to die. Amara, undying, immortal. Vati is a feminine form of the adjective ending in vant, meaning possessed of, having, but often means particularly in Vedic, older Vedic, the place where something is, the vati. And by a peculiarity of Vedic pre-Sanskrit phonetics, the a before a verb was often lengthened, so that's why it's come Amaravati. No, Amaravati, the abode of the immortals.
Can I ask another one? A quick
please
one?
Please do.
I was wondering whether cariño in Spanish and caro in Italiano is cognate with the karuna. karuna.
That's an interesting point. Yes. Yeah. Let me check that one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just making a note. So I'll come back on that one at the next class. I've made my note. I had noticed actually as the weeks were going by that I was constantly losing the little notes I'd made. So I've now, you see, I'm curing it by writing it on pink paper. You see, so it's much more difficult to lose. That's the most important, pink paper, the notes I made in the class for the questions to answer next time. Right, so we've got a bit of time. We can move, if you wish, move on to the next verse. Unless there are any other questions arising out of this one.
James, hi, it's Chris Allen.
Chris.
Yeah,
hello.
I just want, could you remind me of the significance in the Roman script of that hat syllable that you get in Annus Decana?
Ushnodikana. Oh, yes, of course. I will willingly do that for you. We use the circumflex. It's not part of the Sanskrit script. It's done as a help to learners. Let me just, where you get two verbs, two words merging, Ushna Udaka becomes Ushnodaka. Notice I haven't put the circumflex accent there. In the Devanagari script, you've got this letter O here. I just write no on its own. So the Ushna Udaka merges to become Ushnodaka. We've got that by Sandhi. They merge. In the Devanagari script, this is the symbol for the joint O. In the Devanagari script, it's indistinguishable from any other O. So for example, sorry. This is Bodhi.
Yeah.
As an aid to learners, you find in many texts, and I use it also to help learners, Monier Williams does it in his dictionary, where you get two different vowels merging to form a new vowel, the A and the U merging to form the O, you remind the students or help the students to analyze the word by putting the circumflex accent over it. So by putting that circumflex accent, it just reminds students that it's not an original O, as in Bodhi, which is not a merger of two vowels, just is Bodhi. It's created, this O here comes about through the merger by Sandhi of two vowels. So that's the only significance of it, and it's just simply as an aid for students.
Right, very good. And also, what's the significance of the asterisk at the end of the Roman script?
Ah, okay. Right, I'll tell you. I will tell you that. The significance of the asterisk is that I just made a note that in other editions that I've used, you found asyate, which is the third person singular, whereas asyase is the second person singular. In fact, some quite respectable editions have asyate, but I couldn't quite work out why asyate, kim asyase, how can you be sitting? Because this is all Shantideva addressing you.
Yeah.
Kim karishyase, kim. So how is he sitting? So if there are two variant readings, asyase, asyate, I prefer the asyase because it sounds more, feels more logical. How can you be sitting like that in a state of great composure? However, try to be an honest scholar, I've just pointed out that there is a variant reading.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions, and preferably ones to which I know the answer?
James, I would like to ask a question.
Yes, please, Brother Carl.
Yeah, in the Sukumara, you analyze it as a vocative, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so all delicate one. But in your translation, you have another one which is so sensitive. Is that a vocative form?
I'm sorry. Can you say that last bit again?
In your analysis,
yes, delicate
Sukumara
one.
is in the vocative form, right? For vocative case.
Yes.
And then if you look at the translation, the English translation, you have another word is so sensitive.
Okay, right.
In the vocative form.
It's the same word. You may have noticed that I've been a bit loose in the translations, and I put this so sensitive. In fact, is the translation of the Crosby and Skillet, I think, and Crosby. Their translation. And the reason I've been a bit loose with the translations is just to reinforce that these translations are only approximations. It has all of these meanings. Okay, a spade is a spade, and there's not much. You can't go very wrong with that. And a hand is a hand, and water is water. But when you come to words like that have more of a cultural meaning and a cultural overtones, then oh sensitive, so oh delicate one, sensitive, oh little prince, oh diddums even. All of these are not exact translations, but helps to see these things that help you to see what the origin actually means, what it's getting at.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why I'm saying don't run off with their Sukumara means sensitive. It doesn't. It's just used in that meaning in a rather sarcastic way here. And delicate. And again, I've analyzed it here. Kumara, you see Kumara youth, especially a princely youth. So that is why what we're trying to do here isn't just saying, what does this mean in English? Anyone can get a translation of it. We're trying to understand it from within the Sanskrit.
I think the Buddha describes himself as delicate, doesn't he, in the sutras? Delicate I was, he says, when I was young.
Ah, actually, that's a good point. I wonder if he uses that same word, Sukumara. I was so delicate.
I don't know, because I don't know the Sanskrit or the Pali for it.
Let me just check.
In his life, he says, as a youth, I was delicate.
Okay. Let me see if I can find more. That's an interesting point there. Thanks, Desmond. Okay, I will endeavor to find out a bit more on that. So we're just a few minutes from the end. It's probably not quite worth starting on the next verse yet. So any more entertaining rabbit holes?
Yeah, I got one for you, but it is Italian, really.
Okay, let's go down an Italian rabbit hole then in the last 4 minutes.
I was thinking, we were talking about nautical, navy, and so I was thinking nuotare in Italian. Is it cognate?
Nuotare?
Nuotare, swimming.
Ah, nuotare. I wonder if it is. There was an NU, nuotare.
Thank you.
because nage, I think it's natare in Latin, nuotare. Nuotare. I somehow think not, but I will check. I wonder why, if it is from natare, why did the Italians change it to nuotare? You could so easily have kept it as natare. Never mind. Actually, one of the joys of this, you see, having these bits of Italian and Latin comparison thrown in, is it's slightly the same as Sanskrit to Pali. That, you know, you get the Pali is kind of rather looser, not so rigid. Exactly that. Pali can be more fluid.
Precisely fluid, you know, nuo gives you the idea of
nuo, yes, nuotare.
Thank you.
Okay, right. So we're nearly at our 1:45. So any more rabbit holes, anybody? Okay, so without that, then I will bid you farewell. Okay, Al, was that a bidding farewell or a question? Right.
Thank you, James.
Okay, so thank you very much to you all, and hopefully I will see you again for the exciting grammar class next week.